Most people have an idea of what angels are like. Beings of light, created by God, sinless, eternal. But there is one figure who does not fit into this picture: Metatron. In ancient texts, he is called the highest angel of heaven, the one who stands closest to the throne of God, the one who records destinies, the one who sees more than other angels. And here a strange question arises, because according to ancient sources, Metatron was not created as an angel. He was a human being, an ordinary human being of flesh and blood, a human being whom God one day took alive from the earth and raised to heaven. And after that, something happened that even the angels could not accept. The man became what in heaven was called the Prince of Divine Presence. And if this story is true, it changes the very understanding of what a person can become. But to understand Metatron, you need to start with another name, a name that is mentioned only a few times in the Bible: Enoch. And this is where one of the most mysterious stories in the entire spiritual tradition begins. To understand who Metatron became, we need to return to a figure who, at first glance, seems almost invisible in the biblical text. Enoch, in the book of Genesis, his story takes up only a few lines. No great deeds, no wars, no kingdoms. But one line there sounds so strange that it makes you stop. Enoch walked with God, and he was no more, for God took him. Just this one phrase. And it is strange, because all the other people in this genealogy end the same way. And he died, not Enoch. The text does not say that he died. It says that God took him. In ancient traditions, this wording always meant something more than death. It meant ascension, the ascension of a living person. And this is where the Bible is silent, but other ancient texts reveal more. The apocryphal Book of Enoch describes an event that changed not only his fate, but also the heavenly hierarchy itself. According to these texts, one day Enoch was taken up to heaven by angels, not as a guest, as one to whom the structure of the universe is shown. The movement of the heavenly bodies was revealed to him. The hidden laws of time were shown to him. The judgment of the angels who had once violated God's order was revealed to him. But the main thing happened later. Because after all these revelations, Enoch was no longer to return to earth. Something else awaited him. Something that even the angels did not expect to see. For according to ancient descriptions, at a certain moment God said, "This man will no longer be a man." And that is when the transformation began, which the texts describe almost as a rewriting of the very nature of the being. Enoch's body was filled with light. His voice changed. His consciousness expanded so much that he began to see things that were inaccessible even to the angels of the lower heavens. And after that, he received a new name, a name that is pronounced with special caution in heaven: Metatron. But this is where the story becomes even more strange, because when the angels saw what the man had become, not all of them accepted it. And one moment in this story reveals a very deep tension in heaven itself. There is one detail in this story that is often overlooked, and it is this detail that makes the figure of Metatron so extraordinary. Mystical texts say that when Enoch was lifted up to heaven, he was not simply called an angel. He was transformed. His nature was changed. The description of this transformation sounds almost like a cosmic event. His body became like a flame. His bones were like fiery torches. His eyes were like lightning. His voice was like thunder over the waters. This is figurative language, but the meaning is clear. The man was rewritten to a new level of existence. It was then that Enoch received the name Metatron. And here another mystery appears. In some Kabbalistic texts, Metatron is called Little Yahweh. This is an extremely powerful title, so powerful that even in ancient traditions it was pronounced with caution. This does not mean that Metatron is God, but it does mean that he became the closest reflection of divine power among created beings. He is called the one who stands at the throne, the one who transmits God's commands to other angels, the one who commands the heavenly legions. And he is credited with yet another role: the architect of the heavenly structure. In the Kabbalistic tradition, Metatron is associated with what is now called the Metatron's cube, a geometric shape that symbolizes the order and structure of the created world. This is not just a symbol. It is the idea that the universe is built according to a certain harmony, and Metatron stands on the border between the divine plan and the manifested world. And here the story suddenly takes on a new dimension, because if Metatron is a person who became the guardian of the heavenly order, then his story is not just a myth, it is a symbol that a person can rise much higher than they are accustomed to thinking about themselves. But this is where the last, most unexpected question arises. Why is so little said about this in the Bible itself? Why is such a grandiose story hidden between a few short lines? Perhaps because this story changes the way people see themselves, and that is why it sounds so quiet. Because sometimes the most powerful stories in sacred texts do not shout. They just leave a mark, and those who notice it begin to see a completely different picture. Now let's focus on the main point. The story of Metatron is not just a strange legend from ancient texts. It touches on a very deep question that is almost never asked directly. Why did man become the highest angel? Because if you think about it, angels were created perfect. Their nature is pure. Their role is defined from the beginning. Humans are different. Humans live in doubt. Humans make mistakes. Humans fall and rise again. And that is why the story of Enoch is so special. Ancient traditions say that Enoch was not just righteous, he walked with God. This meant a constant inner connection, conscious living, constant approach to the source. And at one point, this path led him to a place where people usually do not go. To heaven. This ascension became a symbol that the human soul is not limited to the earth. In the mystical tradition, Metatron is proof of a very bold idea. Humans are not created just to exist. They are created to grow. The story of Metatron tells us that human potential is much greater than we are accustomed to thinking. Perhaps that is why this story has survived for thousands of years. It reminds us of something important, that a person's path does not end where they are now. Sometimes it is just beginning. And if this story has made you look at yourself a little differently, then you have already begun to understand why the name Metatron is still mentioned with such respect in ancient texts. If you are interested in hidden meanings, biblical mysteries, and spiritual stories, subscribe to the channel. Here we analyze texts that at first glance seem short, but behind them lies a whole universe. And next time we'll talk about another mysterious figure from ancient writings, the one who, according to legend, never died. And yet there is another level to this story that makes it even more unexpected. Because if you look closely at the ancient texts, it becomes clear that Metatron is not just one of many angels. His role in the heavenly structure seems almost unique. He is called God's scribe. In mystical traditions, it is Metatron who keeps the book in which people's actions are recorded, not abstractly, not symbolically, as a witness to human history. And here lies a very powerful idea. The one who keeps this record once lived on earth himself. He knows what it means to make choices. He knows what it means to struggle with weakness. He knows what human life looks like from the inside. That is why, in many traditions, Metatron is not just a heavenly official. He is a witness to human history. This is a very unusual role for an angel. Most angels perceive the world as serving God's will. Their nature is stable. Their path is predetermined. Humans are different. Their lives are filled with decisions. And perhaps that is why there is a hidden meaning in this story. Those who understand the human path can be the best witnesses to that path. That is why Metatron is sometimes called the bridge between two worlds, between heaven and earth, between the divine order and human experience. And if you look deeper, it becomes clear why this story is not told loudly, because it says something very bold. It says that man is not just a creature that lives and dies. He has the potential to rise. That is why the name Metatron appears in mystical texts alongside the highest heavenly powers, not as a legend, as a reminder of what a person can become if their path is truly directed upward. And perhaps That is why the story of Enoch does not end with death. It ends with ascension, and the name he received after that, which still appears in ancient texts today, sounds as if it hides something more than just a title. Metatron. And if this topic resonates with you, write the word Metatron in the comments. This will help the algorithm show the video to people who are also looking for answers to such questions. And be sure to subscribe to the channel, because in the next videos, we will examine other mysterious figures in spiritual history, those about whom very little is said in sacred texts. But it is enough to understand that behind these names are stories that can change the way we look at the world.